welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is my first update in Pan Those Eyeshadows. Now, this series has been around for a lot of different people. A lot of people do them. They all kind of have their own variation. For me, I am focusing on just my singles collection, and I'm just focusing on getting use out of my singles, not necessarily panning them. So if you want to see my progress for the last 2 months, then make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet, if you love panning content. But with all that, let's just get started talking about the single shadows I've been working on for the last 2 months. Now, as I mentioned, I'm a little bit newer to project panning. This is my first update for eyeshadows. I have been doing just a regular project pan on foundation, bronzer, blush, highlight. I'll link that playlist up above and down in the description box. I'll also have linked down below all the makeup that I'm wearing, but you can probably, it's safe to assume I'm wearing all the eyeshadows I've been working on today. So let's talk about them. Now, I am going to adjust my rules just a little bit. The way that I have been doing it is I've been working on 4 shadows at a time, 2 mattes, 2 shimmers, and for my mattes, I want to have a 30 usage goal for 2 months. I think that that's pretty reasonable, and 20 uses for my shimmer shadows. What I want to just change, it's not going to be much, but I just struggled on how I want to incorporate my singles that have more of a component. So for example, my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize cream shadow, I didn't know how to include that because I didn't want to necessarily bring that into Shop My Stash. So what I decided is I added all of that to the Tiny Decisions app, and I'm going to be putting that in this series, but as a bonus. So if I pull anything that's from my singles drawer, that's not necessarily from a Z palette, then I'll be having 5 shadows for that round. Same usage goal, 20 for a shimmer, 30 for a matte, but just adding in an extra to also get some use out of that singles collection. At first, I wasn't gonna do that because I thought it would be a little too confusing to have singles from a Z palette, like this is my Z palette that I've been working on, and then also having a single to the side, so I didn't wanna get it mixed up, but I need to use those shadows too, so that's how I'm gonna do it. Sometimes there'll be 4 shadows, sometimes 5. If I end up pulling 2 special shadows, I'll just re-roll. I'll only do a maximum of 1 bonus per round. So that's the only change. Let's finally jump into the Colorstory. This was my Colorstory for the last 2 months. I will be popping up photos of just progression. Even though I'm doing a 2-month update, I still took photos at the 1-month mark just to hopefully encourage me and motivate me and see more progression. So you'll be seeing the intro, the 1 month, and then today. And let's just talk about these one by one. So the first shade that I have here is Sydney Grace Grounds, and this is what it's looking like. I used this 26 times in the past 2 months. I really thought this was going to be the easiest shade for me to reach for the 30 times since it is a matte. That, however, was not the case. Most of my singles are Sydney Grace. You're going to see a lot of them just throughout this series. And I don't know if you can tell, but I dropped this shade and I had to repress it. So it's a little bit cracked. I don't know. I didn't do the best job repressing it. If you have any tips for repressing, please leave them down below because that is not my forte. I've decided. I've had a few shadows I've had to repress, and every time it doesn't turn out great. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. The issue with repressing this is that it lost some of its pigment. You can see the swatch here, and I'll try to pull up like a screenshot of the swatch from my intro, but it was so much darker than this. And I go back and forth on whether I hate that. This shade is now actually a lot easier to use in my outer corner. However, I can't really use it as a liner, and that's what I was doing before I broke it. So realistically, like, I mean, I should be using just my brown eyeliners, not relying on a shadow. So maybe it's for the best. It's so much easier to work with because I can really build the pigment now on the outer corner and just not have a big glob. Sydney Grace shadows are very pigmented and there's like no use on this. Even using it 26 times, right? Yes, I have to double check. 26 times, I mean, there's like no dent in this. I was really expecting to see some kind of dent. When I watch other panners, and I can't compare myself to everyone, but they're like hitting pan in 15, 18 uses. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not using the right type of brush. I do just use like a normal fluffy blending brush. They might just be really pinpointing the center. I was just hoping to see more use out of this, but this is Sydney Grace Grounds. So because I have 26 uses, I think I decided I am gonna roll this out. I'm gonna keep this and get my last 4 uses out of it in my little Z palette, but I'm gonna roll a shade because 2 months, like I'm gonna use it more than 4 times and I don't wanna wait that long to roll this out. So I am gonna roll a new shade today, but this will stay in and I will get my last 4 uses on this. Now, the second matte that I rolled in was Sydney Grace, and this is French Hens. This swatch is very built up. So it is very light. I used that in my crease, and I did 16 uses on this. This shadow is a little funky. I don't know. I have another shade, I think it's called Honesty or Laughter. That's kind of the same tone as this, and it gets hard pan really easily. I had to pick up the hard pan on this quite a few times, and even still using it 16 times and picking up hard pan, no really visible progress. I wish there was more, but I think I picked a brand that is just going to take a long time to see some progress. That's okay, I've got time, but unfortunately, this one will be staying in for this round. Now we have the 2 shimmers, and the first one that I have is Hidden Treasure from Sydney Grace, and I have 22 uses. This is what it looks like here, and I made my goal on this. You can kind of see a little bit of a dip. This is my best shadow progress for sure, but still 22 uses, right? On a shimmer, you should be able to see more. I can feel the dip on my finger when I go in with my finger. So the way that I like to apply this is in the inner corner, but I would also, I don't know if you can tell, I'm using all 4 of these shadows. So I would put the other shimmer on, and then I would kind of put this on top of that shimmer in just like the inner half of my lid, and it would kind of just transform that shade just a little bit and make it a little bit lighter. I really liked this look a lot. I wore this look, once I figured it out, I wore this look very often. But here is Hidden Treasure, and this one is really the only one I made my actual goal on. So this one's gonna roll out for sure. And the last shimmer that I have is a Gimme Glow. Unfortunately, I reached for this one the least at 12 times, and it is the shade Anastasia. I still think, 12's not bad considering I have a Shop My Stash series. I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes to get through. So 6 times per month could be worse. You can kind of see, I mean, you can see some usage. I wouldn't say there's like a dip, but you can see some usage in it. I mean, these pans are ginormous. I was a little bit intimidated by this shade, I think for the first 2 or 3 weeks, which is why my usage is low on it. But once I kind of figured out layering it with that Hidden Treasure shade, it was a lot more manageable. The shade is so pigmented though, like you really only need to pick up a teeny tiny bit. I barely rubbed my finger in there, and that's what it looks like. I do kind of want to show you what it looks like layered with the Hidden Treasure, just so you can get like a better swatch of it, because it kind of turned it from this purpley kind of shimmer into almost like a rose gold, and it just really transformed the shade. So here's just Anastasia by itself, and then here's Anastasia with Hidden Treasure on top. So this is kind of like how I would have it on the inner half of my lid with this on the outer half. I would put French Hens in the crease, and then I would take Grounds and put it on my outer corner for some depth. So these are all 4 of my shades. First update, you'll have to let me know. I'd love feedback to just know if I'm doing okay, if I'm making like good progress. I want to see progress, but I really just tried to, for the first month, reach for these organically, naturally, like not push myself and hyper fixate on these shadows, because as I mentioned, I still have Shop My Stash. I'll link that playlist up above, and I want to make sure I'm still spreading the love evenly through everything. But some usage is better than no usage, because for the past year, these single shadows have been highly neglected. But recapping, Hidden Treasures is rolling out. Grounds is going to stay in for 4 more uses, but we are going to pull a new shade for that. French Hens is staying, and Anastasia is staying as well. So I'm going to pull 2 new shadows, and we're also just going to see, I don't know if like a bonus shade is going to pull up, but hopefully you'll get the idea of what I'm saying for my new rules once I re-roll. So let's do that. All right, so here is my Tiny Decisions app. I want to do special shades first. I just have this pulled up, so I'm just gonna kind of press this and see what comes up. What is this? Spring Fling from Sydney Grace. So I'm gonna pull that one in. That is definitely not like a bonus. That's gonna be just a single from a Z palette. And then now let's do the matte that we're gonna replace Grounds in. And that is Malt in MAC. That is also a single. So no bonus this round. Sorry, maybe next round. But let me pull those 2 shadows and we'll see what the new color story is. All right, I found my new shades for this round. So let's first start with MAC Malt. Here is my new color story. So just a very, very light brown. Gonna be really nice to pair with Grounds, I think. But this swatch was really hard to like show the color on the back of my hand. So we'll see how it shows up on the eye. It might just be like a nice base, we'll see. But I'll definitely get some use out of it. And then Spring Fling from Sydney Grace is just a really nice kind of pinky ballerina pink. And I think it's gonna go really nice with the Give Me Glow Anastasia shade. I'm actually really happy with this. I mean, I have a type, that's clear, so I don't think that like we're gonna be surprised throughout this series of having really non-cohesive color stories. This is really kind of the only one that's sticking out there, but I promise like on the eyes, it does not look like this. It's even looking a little bit more orange than normal, but these 3 for sure is like a whole look. So I'm really, really excited for that. I mean, here's the old one versus the new. Still have Grounds in for 4 more uses, but that'll be no problem, especially with this Malt shade. So I'm excited for this next 2 months. Get some progress on these. I mean, we'll see if MAC shadows go a little bit quicker than Sydney Grace shadows. The only thing about these MAC shadows is they don't, is it gonna stick? Okay, it will stick. So here is what my color story is looking like all together here. Please do not break. I do not need another episode of repressing. So here are my mattes and my shimmers. This will be an easy color story, kind of light and springy, so I don't know if it really fits like autumn vibes, but that's all right. I'll still get some happiness out of using all of these. I'm really, really excited about this Spring Fling shade. It's really pretty. And Malt. I'm excited about all these. I just wish that I could get some more, see some more progress a little bit quicker than I do, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna force it. So that's gonna complete today's video on just panning my eyeshadows, making some dents in my single shadows, showing them some love. I am now going to insert in all my photos, my progression photos, a little bit shorter, but eventually it'll get a little bit longer of all the shades. And that way you can see a little bit of progress. So that's where I'm gonna leave you all. I hope you have a great one and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.